Ultra-processed foods are foods made with ingredients that you would never find in an average kitchen. This means that they've been industrially made and are essentially industrially manufactured edible items that resemble food. But in my opinion, they're not real food. We've known for a while that they are potentially harmful for us because they lack things like fiber and they have too much sugar and fats in them. But the recent science is telling us they do much worse than that. We know that they can increase our appetite and interfere with our gut microbes. They do this through a number of ways. Firstly, most of these foods lack the original structure of the plant from which they are derived and supposedly trying to imitate. So they don't have that rigid structure, that matrix we've talked about, that provides the essence of the fiber and all the other nutrients. This means that they're softer and they're made to be eaten faster and quicker. That means not only do they get through to our stomach quicker, they are absorbed in our small intestine much more rapidly, meaning you get peaks of blood sugar and blood fats much faster than you would with real food. The other way they affect us is through the extra chemicals that are put in to mimic the real food. Because they've stripped away the ingredients to the real cheap, basic ingredients, they have to add in other chemicals to make it resemble the original food. This means you've got not only colorants to make it look the same color, you've got artificial flavorings, you've got emulsifiers to stick them together, you've got gums, you've got preservatives, you've got artificial sweeteners of many types. So you put all those chemicals together, they were thought to be inert, but we now know that our gut microbes interact with them in a big way. They're obviously not digested by our normal route through the small intestine. Most of them get to the lower intestine where they meet the microbes who have no evolutionary ability to deal with them. So they produce weird kinds of chemicals, send out all kinds of abnormal signals back to our brain, increase inflammation, and cause damage. They have negative effects on us in many ways. The first effect they have on us is due to their structure. They're soft, they have none of the outer casings of the original plant, they've been deconstructed to be super easy to swallow and get instantly absorbed into our body, which gives us a huge sugar rush, and the fat also comes in really fast. So this doesn't allow our body time to get its normal fullness signals in the brain. So we've been regularly eating ultra-processed foods without knowing how bad they are for us. Evolution never taught us how to eat these kinds of foods created in factories, not grown in fields. All of these are part of the arsenal of the food scientists that make these foods. But most of them come from chemistry, from the petrocarbon industry, for example, many of these artificial sweeteners. So they've got no chance in trying to break them down into anything useful. When you eat ultra-processed foods, it sends signals that tell you to overeat. Studies have shown that you will overeat by 20 or 25% every day eating the identical food as ultra-processed or whole foods. The exact mechanism isn't known, but it clearly sends messages to the brain because it's so fast and easy to eat that disturbs our normal defense mechanisms from overeating. And we also know that if you eat too many ultra-processed foods one day, your brain resets and only gets reward from eating the same foods again. So it's, in a way, addictive. A good example of one of the things that's commonly added to ultra-processed foods is guar gum, in order to improve the label because it's got a bit of fiber in it, but it's also there to stick things together, a bit like an emulsifier, which is known to stick things like fats and water together. And it does this, but at the same time, it affects the gut lining and it affects lots of the functions of our microbiome. A short while ago, I added some guar gum powder to some water. I stirred it around and very quickly you've got this gloopy, thick substance that resembles, to me, glue. And I think that's exactly what this is. And this is what these gums and these emulsifiers are doing. They're sticking different bits of food together so it resembles real food. The problem is, it's not good for us. The problem is, it affects our gut microbes who react very abnormally to it, and it also affects our gut lining. And yet, we're eating this stuff every single day. Most people eat bread every day. It's a common staple in many countries, and the majority of people will still be eating white bread, which does provide some fiber, but the way it's manufactured at the moment, it is an ultra-processed food. It has emulsifiers, it has often sweeteners, added sugar, all kinds of substances added to it to make it last for a very long time. And unfortunately, it's bad for us because it has those sugars which get released very easily. It has none of the original plant in it. Now, many people, because they know that white bread might not be good for them, they might go for a healthier looking dark loaf, maybe with some seeds in it, maybe with some health messaging on the packet saying this is healthy, it's whole grain, it's fantastic. But when you look at those labels, you'll see that yes, there is a little bit more fiber in it than the plain white bread, but it contains just the same number of ingredients that you wouldn't find at home. The same preservatives, the same emulsifiers, the same sweeteners, etc. So there's still far too much sugar and nasty ingredients in this stuff, and people are unaware of it. They think this is a healthy food, and I used to until very recently. So I'm not blaming them for not understanding this. This is really tough. Now, what people need to do is look at the labels much more carefully. Realize you want a simple label with as little ingredients as possible. And a great way to think about this is if you're looking at potato crisps, potato chips. What should a good one have? It should have just potatoes, some oil, and some salt. 3 ingredients, you know, that's all you need. But if you take many of the ones on the market at the moment, they have at least 12 ingredients, sometimes over 20. And that's just so they can resemble the actual potato. Most of them contain all kinds of things, including rice and corn and artificial ingredients. You've got no clue what they are. But they're perfectly designed to make them delicious to eat and make you overeat them, much more than if you're eating the very simple product that doesn't have all those chemicals. So I'm not against the obvious treats that we know are unhealthy. I'm not against eating this fluorescent coloured licorice. I'm not against having these sweets. But I am against a lot of the foods that have a health halo, that pretend to be something they're not. This wolf in sheep's clothing that we see everywhere on the aisles at the moment. I'm talking about bars like this that announce they have high protein levels, so therefore they must be fine and you can ignore all the other 20-odd ingredients in there. Talking about ones that say we're low in sugar because they're so full of artificial sweeteners and other rubbish that you can't taste anything. I'm against the fact that you've got yogurt-like foods that are given to many children that have 20 or so ingredients and masses of sugar. I'm against things that call themselves chocolate that are absolutely not with any real chocolate and huge amounts of extra ingredients that, again, are given to our children. If you go into any supermarket now, you'll see row after row of health halo yogurts. Everything from little children's ones to adult ones that claim to be low in fats and low in calories, high in protein, and most of them are ultra-processed with many ingredients you really wouldn't want in your body, not even once, but certainly not every day. And the sad thing is many of these are being given to children on a regular basis, and parents are believing they're giving them children something healthy. To me, that is wrong, and they should carry a health warning on them. Aesthetically, you only have to look at this range of foods and all you see is bright packaging obscuring this beige muck that is produced in factories and molded and boiled and colored to make it look appetizing. Real food doesn't need any advertising. It's obvious, it's healthy and tasty. In recent years, I've reduced my reliance on ultra-processed foods. It's come right down. Every now and again, I'm in a place where I can't avoid it. And now I'm sensitive to it. If I do eat lots of ultra-processed foods, I instantly feel unwell. I don't feel I have the same mood. I'm a bit depressed and I feel lethargic. And I think once you are in tune with your body will tell you what the best foods are. And I think this is a big lesson from this course. Listen to your body. Your body knows the answers. We just have to be more receptive to it. There is now considerable evidence showing that people who consume these kind of foods on a regular basis have poorer health than those who don't. And that's even accounting for things like age, weight, and social deprivation, etc., which obviously is related to this. But we do know that because these foods are making you overeat, because they're making your microbes unhealthy, the epidemiology is now showing that it increases rates of cancer, increases risks of heart attacks and early death. So we will be very sad when we look back in 10 or 20 years' time that we didn't do something about this in the same way we look back and see what was happening to cigarettes. How for so long people were selling things that they knew were unhealthy and they're super cheap. Why would we be giving such unhealthy food away that's so cheap and particularly targeting children who don't really have any choice in the matter? They can't make a rational decision about healthy or unhealthy food if they're surrounded by this all the day that's making them overeat and making them obese. We can all do much better to help reduce our ultra-processed food intakes, be wise to these health halos, be wise to anything with packaging, look at the labels, look at the number of ingredients, and be suspicious of things that you might have thought in the past were healthy and in fact aren't. When in doubt, try and find a healthier alternative that has a smaller ingredients list. Do that, slowly reduce this level down from over 50% of your food to 10% or so, and you'll be in a much better place. And spread the word. I think the duty of everybody out there is to tell people, do you realize what you're eating? Do you realize what long-term this is doing to your body? And if people did know that, they'd probably be making more sensible choices. I found that once I've explained what ultra-processed food is, how it's hidden behind these labels, people don't want to be eating food that's going to make them hungrier and overeat the same junk and get more health problems, and particularly mental health problems. They want to reduce it. And in the same way that people get weaned off cigarettes, we need to do the same with these kind of foods. It's not easy, and some of them induce cravings that are very difficult, particularly with these brilliantly crafted chemical products that are designed to make us semi-addicted to them. But I think the more you learn about it, the easier it is to come off them. I'm not for banning these foods, but I think they shouldn't be allowed to say something they're not, and they shouldn't be given out there really at the subsidy of the taxpayer, who is subsidizing this giant business of artificial food, which is always going to be cheaper than the real food. Ultra-processed food has a direct impact on our healthcare system, primarily through inducing obesity and this overeating by 25% that we're seeing. I think they're largely responsible for the increase in obesity we've seen in children and adults, and they also cause early death and early cancers. Current estimates are that the common use of ultra-processed foods is costing our healthcare system at least £60 billion a year just on its effects on obesity. And it's many times more than that if you add in all the other effects on dental care, on heart disease, and on cancer. It is crippling our country and our system. Most Western countries now eat 50% or more of their calories as these kind of foods. And that number is even higher in children. And it's getting worse every year. We simply can't afford to keep doing this to keep our population sick, not only physically, but also in mental health, because we know ultra-processed food is extremely bad for mental health, particularly of our youngsters. We really need people to wake up and realize what is making our nations so sick. It's very simple. Stop eating ultra-processed foods.